All right, man. Drew, blessed. Blessed. How are you, man? Thanks for being on the podcast. Sorry for the, I just got out of the shower. I was like, what time is it? Oh my God, I'm already 3 minutes late. Shit.
No stress at all. It's totally good. I'm happy that you were willing to take the time to talk.
Yeah, man, of course.
It's been obviously pretty isolating through the whole pandemic. My partner and I are taking it pretty seriously.
Right.
So we've been, we're kind of even outside of the small town we live in.
Oh, really? Where are you guys at? What small town are we at?
I'm in Abbotsford, British Columbia.
Okay.
And then the other members are in Chilliwack and Mission, British Columbia. But yeah, so it's any opportunity at this point to kind of connect with people. Where are you at?
I'm in Santa Barbara, California.
Oh, very sick.
Yeah. It's a small town.
Yeah, we've passed through it actually. We never played, but we spent maybe like a day there in 2019, I think. Our drummer actually messaging our group chat the other day being like, I really wish we could be in California right now. Obviously it's winter Canada. So
yeah, it was it rained this morning and I was like, oh my God, it's finally raining. It's happening. Right. This is it.
Me and you are on polar opposite tips right now. It's been raining here for months. We're waiting for that sun.
Oh man.
Because we got that like Seattle weather.
Right.
It's just
it's
so shit.
Oh my God. Man, yeah. So you guys are in Vancouver, a little outside of Vancouver. Is it one of those things where, because people, this is what's happening here, is that people from LA are like, we gotta get away, and then they come here and get away, but then it's like, hey, we live here. Is there something like that? Is it like a kind of a vacation area, or really out in the sticks, or where?
No, Abbotsford is like a really Mennonite community. It's like got strong Mennonite roots through most of its like colonial history.
Whoa.
And it's definitely not a vacation town. It's more agricultural for the most part, and then mixed with like kind of, it's become a lot more kind of yuppie gentrify over the last, like, as people are being priced out of Vancouver.
Oh shit.
We're not necessarily I make a point of establishing that we're not from Vancouver, because we're an hour away.
Right.
But we've always been here, so it's just like a different.
Were you raised there? Are you born and raised there? Is this your hometown?
I'm actually from Saskatoon, in Saskatchewan, but I've been here for 20 years at this point. So, and I was a young person here, like 12 to now. So I don't think there's any reason to like, I would call it my hometown 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
technicalities aside.
There's always like this pressure when you live in the outside of an area to like just claim the biggest city near you. And I think it's great that you guys are still repping, at least you rep the area that you're currently living in. Like,
yeah, I mean, I know a lot of bands from Abbotsford do actually rep Abbotsford.
Cool.
Or like we say the Fraser Valley now because it's part of we all don't live in Abbotsford, right? We're part of this like weird little triangle. Like Mitch, our bass player, lives in a city called Mission, which is like 30,000 people. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like I get on an international level, if you're trying to like book your first show in Chicago or something, like to be like, we're from Vancouver.
Yeah.
How are you ever going to establish this thing where like,
it's like, where are you from? Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. Where they're like, I'm not booking some dumbass band from this podunk town. Yeah.
Did you ever
but
feel
we definitely...
Did you ever feel the pressure that you need to be in Vancouver? Like, all the music's happening in Vancouver. Is that the kind of? Is there a similar thing like that there?
No, okay. Our proximity to it has always allowed us to play it when we wanted.
Yeah.
Obviously, a lot of people do leave here to go to Vancouver. Like that's super common. Right. And I understand their reasons. Like I don't hold anyone like when my friends move to the city, I don't go like, why?
Yeah, totally.
I completely understand why. Like, I wonder kind of for you if it's similar with like people moving to LA from Santa Barbara, because it's just like
that's all I heard.
Santa Barbara's under 100,000. Yeah,
it's like no. I actually just looked this up. It's like 400,000.
It's quite big.
Yeah, it's shockingly big, but it's not nearly as big as the county next to us, which is 800. So
this is this is such a symptom of like Canadian talking to American, because I'm like, towns here are like, you're touring to like say Winnipeg, a town is like 15,000 people.
Right.
And then people in the States, they're like, oh, this like you're going to play this little town. And I'm like, it has 200,000 people. It's bigger than where I'm from.
Totally.
I specifically think of this city that we've always made a habit of playing because they booked us on our first tour, and that really spoke a lot to us that they took a chance. But Elyria, Ohio, and it was like, so we've always played there on every subsequent tour, and people are like, why do you play Elyria? And I'm like, it's got a university. Like, it's just wild to me that there's a really different balance of how towns are interpreted, I feel, between the two places.
Like Santa Barbara, Slow, Santa Cruz, these are all like big surfing kind of areas. Well, Santa Barbara, I don't really surf, but like I hear it's not that great. But like, they're all cities that get passed over because everyone plays San Francisco and they play LA. But honestly, some of my favorite shows have been in San Luis Obispo, a house show in Santa Cruz, and then it's like packed because there's a college there and the college is intertwined. In Santa Barbara, the college is super far away from the downtown, so they have their own little area. We have the rest of the city. Like, they don't need to leave.
Right.
So the idea that you're going to play this show and all these kids are going to be there, it's just not a thing. It's hard to sell tickets in this town.
Right. I'm familiar with a place called the Fun Zone. Am I in the wrong city?
Oh, yeah. Same city, but RIP, the Fun Zone. Yeah.
It's gone.
Oh,
yeah. I never ended up playing there, but we had spoken. I think Omar Soliman played the night where we were trying to come through, and so it was kind of like, nah, like, let's not come through.
I think I remember that show. Yeah, crazy.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's my only tangential link that I can think of to like solidify. But yeah, that's cool.
It's cool, man. It's like it's a small town. It's I feel it's comparatively, I guess, in compared to other states. But also, when you think of like 400,000, you have to realize that most of the demographic is old. There's a lot of old money here,
right?
And it's just like they're retiring. They've been here forever, and then there's people like me working in restaurants, like the service industry shit, just like getting destroyed trying to live here, trying to make it work. Like, it's so expensive.
Right. Yeah. Oh, I mean, that's like the Vancouver reality as well.
Right.
Like, education is just like the ultimate like killer. I don't know how people sometimes, when I'm speaking with my friends who've made the decision to be in Toronto or Vancouver, like, it's it's not admirable, but it's amazing the amount of effort that has to go into just trying to survive to some degree in those cities. So I don't know if you're feeling the same like kind of heat and pressure down there. And then you have like shops opening up called like, I don't even know. They sell like $10 juice cleanse, and
I just think
our downtown now.
I just think like in today's music scene, like, you don't need to live in a big city. You know, I think if you grind pretty hard on the internet, and that's what I've learned this year, it's just like grinding and putting out, this is a love-hate word, but like content. If you're just putting out like content and like staying busy on the internet. And I found a way to make that word work for me. Like I don't consider my albums or my music content. That's the art, right? But then all the other stuff like podcasting or just like live streaming shows like on Instagram, I consider that content. I don't consider that like an art form, really. It's just like doing something to stay in the feed. I don't know. How do you feel about that? Art versus content. Where are you at with that word?
Well, I know what you're referring to in terms of like the Twitter
Right.
kind of feud that's going on, or like some people quoting some of the like older established artists saying things like it's diminishing to call. And I agree in the sense that if someone who writes for, like, just hypothetically, if somebody writes for Vanity Fair and they hire a writer to do a piece and then they say like, thank you for the content.
Yeah.
I think that's super diminishing, and that's fucked up. And am I allowed to say that?
Yeah, it's YouTube. It's the internet.
Okay.
Right. My YouTube channel is not monetized yet. Go ahead. Say whatever you want.
Right. Okay. But yeah, I mean, so in that capacity, I definitely see how it's kind of diminishing. I appreciate kind of the take that you have with it, which is like, there are kind of pieces of content that you're creating and staying active. And like, honestly, I feel there's a bit of a forced hand currently. If you're having kind of like a go in the arts, like, we're not playing shows, and especially our band was built. It was like its foundation is built on playing live. We spent our first 3 active years touring really heavily. So like, it's been a weird learning curve for us as well. In terms of the terminology, I see how content is degrading, but I kind of feel on that front specifically, the semantics aren't too important to me, because I think people realize that anything they're putting out, I think it depends where it's coming from. If you and I are discussing the things we're doing together and you call it content, I'm not going to be angry. But if some pitch feature, something came in that was like, we're looking to create some content, I might be like, well,
you might need another band if you're looking for content. I know, absolutely, man.
Yeah.
So
it's so contextual.
Yeah, that's true. It depends how we're talking about it. Like, so you guys formed. When did you form? How long has this project been around, and how did it start?
Oh yeah, we started playing together, I think, is 2015.
Okay.
Was when we started playing together. It started really fast, because we'd all played in kind of a plethora of other bands before this one. So I had played in kind of some math rock bands that were doing okay, and Ruben played in this pop punk band that had been touring the States that was doing like fairly well at the time, and the other 2 members were also kind of playing in this band that had like gone to South by and toured down the West Coast, et cetera, et cetera. But everyone was in their early 20s and kind of coming to that point where like there's this juncture, especially being Canadian. I think a lot of artists kind of start to give up to some degree when crossing the 49th parallel seems like the next step, because it's quite difficult. But
wait, let's talk. Yeah. But let's talk about that really quick. Like, what is that? Like, what age is that? Like, kind of dawning on you? Like, oh, I'm turning 25 and I don't know what to do now. Like, what is that moment?
I mean, I feel like that's not a universal experience. If I'm thinking of my friends, I think for everyone it was a little different. Just like, oh, I don't want to put this amount of effort in because I don't find it fun. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I think it's important to establish that it's like, there's no judgment within this, because I think comfort is sacrificed to a large degree if you're going to choose to go and sleep on people's floors for 3 months, and it's a choice, right?
Right.
But, for a lot of people too, if they were in long-term relationships, if they were graduating university, like the thing that started as a hobby, that other members of those bands start to be like, I don't want this to be a hobby. I feel like I have creative energy and I feel like I want to follow this as a field. I think those start to splinter around. It happened for us in our early 20s. And so the band is an amalgamation of basically Ruben, the other guitar player in Blessed, and I reached out to 2 people who we knew were like pretty intensely serious about the art that they wanted to create in other bands locally. And Ruben and I have played together since we were 12 and 13. So
you guys have been friends for a while.
We've been doing this since before I was a teenager, literally. And so the band kind of just formed out of a desire to like, are you willing to do like, and we're young at this point, and I guess we still are. That's a separate conversation. But yeah, it's like
that's that's subject. That's subject. You know.
Yeah, yeah.
You guys are very young.
We were definitely like asking the other members first and foremost, like, does the thought appeal to you of doing like 50 shows across Canada, including shows in like tiny, like playing Red Deer, Alberta and stuff like that. And just like basically anywhere we play, because like the big thing for us was just getting out and playing was such an immediate way to like build kind of community and meet artists. And like, I think one of the driving forces of that is when you live in smaller towns outside of a major metropolis and you don't feel like there's an in. And when we were young, we definitely felt that. We felt like we didn't like belong playing in Vancouver because of being from a smaller town. Like we'd always play there and be like, does everyone here just think we're like stupid hicks? Yeah. And then like one time,
is that the vibe? Is that?
I've been asked before, and no one thinks that anymore, because all my friendships there are long standing. At least no one that I know personally. Right. But it was posited to me once at a show. Someone was like, so you guys like what? Why the hell are you out there? Are you like farming or something? Whoa. And I mean, that shows such a deep ignorance about what's going on in places immediately surrounding you.
Yeah.
And B, it's so belittling because I don't understand necessarily the need to like punish somebody for not living in a metropolis. Like I understand, like there's a plethora of reasons to not want to live here. But some people are here that are actively working to make it a better place to live and better for youth and artists. And especially as we get older and kind of realize that there is avenues to like produce positive change in the community we grew up in. And and again, this is no judgment on anyone who left, because I understand and I would never hold that against someone. But yeah, I think that definitely when we were younger drove this feeling of like, oh, we're from Abbotsford, ergo we're stupid. And so let's go on tour and like meet people in other communities. And like when we were first starting, we were playing anywhere. We went and played in Prince Edward Island, which is like a really small province on the East Coast. And like we were playing cities with less than 100,000 people because that's where we were from and that's where we could play. And kind of like a lot of those people actually have ended up in some of the more major metropolises in Canada and the US when we started doing the US in smaller places. But I think there's some sort of like heartfelt link with playing other smaller communities and stuff like that. And I've gone on a wild tangent at this point.
No.
But like what I'm trying to get at, I guess, is like the band formed out of a desire to just go out and play and try and create a sense that the art we were creating had a community.
Right.
Especially creating like such niche and weird art that we don't really deviate from. Like, so yeah. And that was really, and we found it in the other metropolises too. Like we have great friends in Montreal and Toronto and even Vancouver, right? Like I'm not discounting them, but in the beginning when we were younger, definitely growing up playing around there had some like weird little brother kind of energy feeling.
And that's something
that I think motivated us.
And that's something a lot of people I don't think talk about a lot, is that it doesn't, being from a small town or whatever, and then you go to these major cities, or if you play other small towns, like the people you meet along the way, you don't know who they're going to be in 5 years. That kid who just worked at the college radio station, oh, cool, he's interning at this label, he's interning at this, or he's working at this place. You don't know, so you can't just like dismiss someone. And that's something I learned along the way. You never know. You show up like 5 years later and that guy's still a fan of your band and he works here now. And you're like, oh shit, can you get me like a meeting? Like, and then just like, anything can happen,
Well, I know. And I mean, you're touching on something kind of sensitive, which is like, we also put on tons before COVID, like we put on hundreds of shows in Abbotsford, and we've brought bands from New York. We've brought bands from Chicago. We've brought bands from LA. Like we've had tons, like when you think of the city of Abbotsford, British Columbia, almost nobody knows it outside of BC. But we've had bands play here that you like, you know what I mean? We've done such a good job, and that has a large part of like such a supportive community. And the city actually doesn't have any venues. We do this at people's houses.
Oh.
So like people offering their houses and stuff like that. Like we get no municipal support, and we actively fight the city all the time because honestly, in the confidence of knowing no one from the city is like no one at the city of Abbotsford is going to see me say this. So like in the confidence of this conversation, they're truly horrendous, and their archaic views on culture don't help anybody. And then, but they also have like the gall at city council meetings to be like, why do the youth leave?
Right.
And you're like, well,
what's
take a look in the mirror.
Yeah. Like,
yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, and that's the more important question to ask, what's keeping them? And so, the thing that's sensitive though about it is like, I do remember the bands who came here and kind of thought it was really stupid and like thought it sucked. And like, so when you talk about that thing where it's like not writing people off just because they're from a smaller place, and not that I feel written off necessarily. I think a lot of
people will do that. Yeah.
I think a lot of that energy comes from within, and not like having kind of that weird perception of self to be like, I am smaller because I'm from a smaller place. Right. And if I was from a bigger place, I would feel more, I don't know, like, cause I'm just speculating at that point. Right. But, yeah, you do remember people coming through and
then you make relationships along the way. Like, and that's what it's about. That's the community building that I think, that's always advice. I know for a fact, most of the people who listen to this podcast are in other bands. I see them, they message me, and they're like, dude, love this episode, love that episode. Like, thank you. And that's why I always love talking about that kind of stuff, because the audience who is paying attention to this is younger kids in bands just trying to figure out what's the next step. I'm playing some house shows. Yeah. Maybe I played a shitty bar show, like, but what do I do next? You know? It's like,
right.
Trying to get that.
I think, art is such a weird career choice to try and be in. And like it's so difficult because there's so many weird intersections of like motivation and end goals, and it's really hard to give any sort of practical advice, I feel, in this industry towards anything, because I'm like, the first question I always ask when I talk to younger artists especially is like, well, what like in 10 years, when you're like feeling like you did it, what did that look like? Like, and working backwards from that, because I feel like it's so hard to be like, oh, I want to do an opening slot for some big band and go and play some theaters. And I'm like, I've heard some pretty wild stories about friends' bands, like doing some wickedly massive tours and none of the fans of the bigger band caring at all. And it didn't actually do anything. And like, so sometimes your goals like can be like weirdly, like they're not going to translate the way that you think they will. And this is kind of like when I hear someone being like, if someone's like, I'm playing house shows and shit like that, I would just be like, go and do that everywhere.
Yeah.
Cause like house shows, like community, like it's so much more about just like meeting other artists and being friends and having a community that you can rely on, and like being stoked on other people and not making it singular. Like we had a lot of friends' records come out, and that's why we started that Spotify playlist thing. But we also make a point now to include their Bandcamps, because like
did you see there's a merch bar. It's like a Shopify thing. It's soon you'll be able to sell your merch on Spotify. And I didn't see that. At first I was like, okay, that might be kind of cool. And then I looked more into it. I saw Wolfpack tweet about it too. They're going to take like 20% for doing nothing. For just being
That's so high.
For just being the middleman to put your stuff on Spotify. It's like, oh, fuck that. Like I'm already not making that much money off merch. Like t-shirts cost a lot depending on what kind of shirt you buy. Like it can get pretty expensive to make this merch. Like I don't know. I just can't see myself like giving away another percentage like that I already give away, you know.
Especially with like if they're just doing web integration, so like you're just posting your Shopify or your Bandcamp or whatever, and then it's just pulling it over instead of actually being hosted on the platform. It's kind of like, what I mean, and again, I have no idea what they're doing, but I mean, you're not supposed to bite the hand that feeds. I understand, but
totally,
do they really feed? A,
are they feeding? Yeah.
B, and B, like, let's be real. Like, it's not great.
Yeah.
Like that infrastructure is absolutely terrible for like when people reach out about like, how do I support the band? Like, what can I do to actually support the band? And it's
That's
like,
why.
yeah, you should stream to some degree because it algorithmically, like as a tool for full disclosure, I don't use Spotify. I've maintained pretty strictly to Bandcamp since I was a teenager, but I understand it as a tool for discovery. But I think if someone could make a personal rule where if they listen to an album like 5 times on Spotify, go buy it for $5 on Bandcamp.
Yeah.
Because I think it's really hard to like drill in like to the public consumer who's maybe like, that's such an awful word to use, but like to somebody who's engaging with art, like truly, it's hard to establish if it's not on your mind. And I understand why it's not on people's minds. They're like, we live in this world where no one can survive anymore. But if you stream an album 5 times on Spotify, you're coming nowhere near that $5 on Bandcamp. Yeah. Like you're not even touching. Like I don't even think you hit 25 cents on 5 album stream.
Yeah, probably not. Yeah. I think
so it's,
if you want to make your money be the most impactful, yeah, definitely direct to artists. Like I had a conversation with Chris Cohen about this too. Just like we were talking about Patreon. This was earlier in the pandemic where I was like, maybe I should do a Patreon. I still have my Patreon up, but I didn't do anything last month. I'm just like thinking I need to end this shit because what do they do to deserve this? Like, can I just do this on my own website? Could I just find a way to like just fucking Venmo me or PayPal me, like, and I'll send you a link, like start an email list? I don't know.
Right. The email list, that's interesting because I've had a friend, someone who actually has done some work for the band, really pushed me on the email list thing for a while. And I think there's like some weird sort of natural apprehensive thing with musicians where they don't like adapting new technologies and I understand that to some degree, but I finally kind of saw the light in a way on the email list thing because as somebody who started doing things on MySpace and then saw it migrate over to Facebook, and now Facebook is pretty much like there's no organic reach on it.
Yeah, so it's done. Yeah, it's
done. And then now we're basically just we mostly focus, if we're doing something online, on Instagram at this point is kind of the account that we do mostly.
And Instagram kind of feels like it's the beginning of the end.
Yeah. And so the thing that won me over and kind of the mystique that was destroyed for me is like the email list is forever.
Right.
If I had someone sign up for my email list when I had MySpace, they'd still be on it right now. Yeah. And like, I in a way I was like, I used to think like, I don't want to I view, maybe because I do so much emailing, I view the inbox of somebody as a really personal like invasion. And I used to kind of be like, I don't want to be blowing up people's emails. Like, and then now over time, I've really relinquished that because I'm like, the email is probably the sickest avenue of all because you can say whatever you want. It can be as long as you want. It's direct to the person who's like, if they've signed up, they've made a conscious choice to be like, I want to know what you're up to. Similar to something like Patreon, right? And also it's constant. It's forever, right? Like, wouldn't it be sick if all those people that followed us on MySpace were still getting updates about the band? Because they've definitely fallen off. We didn't do anything to...
Yeah, they're still on social media. They're just on a different platform now. Or they didn't follow you across the bridge to the new one.
Yeah, so the email list is kind of one thing that I'm kind of like, actually, it's kind of sick. And I'm like, I don't know why I fought it for so long because it's just like, what a great kind of like, I mean, the fact of the matter is, especially with COVID, like, how do you connect with people who want to know what you're doing if there are people who want to know what you're doing?
Right.
And like, kind of this cognitive dissonance around like, well, I'm willing to post on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, but I'm not willing to have an email list. Is like, what if you just had the email list? Maybe
And
Like,
the branding around an email list is kind of turning around to anti-social media. Hey, I hate social media. Let's do an email list better. And then people are like, yeah, I hate social media too. And then they're more interested in like, it's like the algorithms and all that shit. Like, let me just subscribe to what I like. And so I always get what I like. But it's a discovery thing. But I don't really discover new shit on Instagram very much anyways to begin with.
neither do I. And I mean,
Yeah.
I'm like, maybe I should establish that like I'm no authority on how any of this should work because I'm like a really poor user.
Right.
Like on the other side of it, like I'm just, I do it to the amount that I have to for the fact that the band has these avenues of communication, but
Right.
I'm a poor user on that front. And the email list, I've tried signing up for a couple bands now because I'm like, let me see what other people are saying, because like this doesn't feel overwhelming to me. This doesn't feel like a chore to me. This is like something I don't mind doing. And if I'm being like 100% transparent, like once I saw Parquet Courts had one, I was kind of,
okay.
well, then what the hell, dude? What, like what defeatist of self logic am I following?
Right.
That this band who has no social media has an email list. Like,
true. Because at some point I think it's the alternative. Like if I personally, for one, I am drained. I just turned 30. I have been on the internet for more than most of my life. Like, and I feel I'm getting tapped out, man. I feel like I am on TikTok, and I actually do find TikTok to be more fun, but I already feel TikTok getting weird. Like there's too many fucking blue check marks now, and it's all these fucking celebrities. Like, you guys are going to ruin it. It was fun for a little while. There's nobody on there. I didn't know anybody on there. I was just posting silly shit. Like, yeah.
Yeah, we've made the concession that we're not getting it.
At TikTok?
Yeah, we've made the concession that we're probably done jumping platforms. Kind of like, it's good. It's good. I think if people can make it work, I have a little brother who's 11 years younger than me. And he uses it, and how he kind of explained it to me was like, well, the reason it's sick for someone like my age is like, apparently its reach is really cool. Like lots of strangers see your stuff, and it's not so much like kind of that hyper, like curated ratio, like kind of look thing, like, which is always like such a weird part of the social media thing.
A video can really pick up stream. If it starts getting like engagement pretty quickly, it can really start snowballing. The problem with that is that it invites people who don't know who the fuck you are to like I had one video get like 94,000 views on TikTok. I was like, wow, that's never happened to me before in my life. And that's when you get people like, hey man, you should get new glasses. Oh, this song is cool, but like the guy can't fucking sing. It's like, oh, okay.
Right.
This is bad now for my mental health. As much as I'm excited that it's getting views, like it's people who don't give a fuck, who don't even listen to music like mine, like giving me fucking pointers. Like I don't need your fucking pointers. Just like the video or keep scrolling. Like what the fuck?
Yeah, I mean, we've been kind of trying some digital advertising stuff.
Yeah.
With them, and you get a lot of really wacky comments with that. I find them more funny. I find myself, I understand how they could feel tumultuous.
Yeah.
With the religious band name.
Oh,
it's like
totally.
Really funny sometimes because like people make really automatic associations with the band. And the more funny thing with Bless social media is that we get tagged all the time by people being like commenting on someone's posts, being like, bless you. And like,
no.
Like, cause the Facebook auto tag feature.
Right.
I don't know. It's I guess maybe just the amount of times we've had weird comments and engagement has maybe produced some level of immunity to it. And it's kind of funny though. We had someone recently post something that was like, this absolutely fucking sucks. And I was like, I don't know.
You're just like scrolling on your phone at night. You're reading it like, oh, okay, what do I do with this?
Yeah. I
can't be mad. It's just a stranger.
It's kind of funny. Yeah. I don't know. I guess. And it's just like, yeah, it's one of those things where it's just like, you know, you took the time to write it, and that's kind of nice.
Yeah. One time, my old drummer, his brother did a Instagram ad for us, and I was like, "Thanks, man. Thanks for paying for that. That's awesome. Like, I'm broke. I'm not gonna do this has to be like 2012 or something." And he's like, "Yeah, I'll show you how it works." And then he put like, "Do you like Tame Impala? Well, this band fucking shits all over them. Like, that's how good they are." And I was like, "Oh my God." And he invited every troll, and they're just like, "Fuck this band. This band fucking sucks." And I was like, "Oh my," I couldn't live that down for like, I don't know, a few days. I was like, "This sucks."
That's like, so that's really classic ad copy.
God damn.
Super, like, that reminds me of I still, and this speaks to the power of the marketing, I guess, but I still remember that Wolf Mother album coming when I was like 17, and it was like, "Do you like Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd?" And it was just like, it just listed basically every major label, like
Classic
dad rock band.
Yeah, totally.
It's this, but for you, young man. And it was just like, oh shit, I guess this album's for me. I still remember
that. In 2006, they were for me. I have a photo from junior year of high school with a Wolf Mother shirt on.
Right.
I was like, yes. And when you're 16, it was for me. Yeah.
It definitely worked. Yeah, I bought the record. I remember I went to A&B Sound. I bought the record.
Love it. I love it. Yeah, I saw them live in San Diego. That was, I think by the next year I was already done with them. But like for a good year, I was like, this is sick.
Yeah, the funny thing about that band definitely is that I can't even begin to tell you like what came after.
No, yeah, just the one album. And that was also such a powerful time for MySpace because they were the MySpace Artists of the Month or whatever. And it was like, that's like the first thing you'd see when you would log on. That was a great way for band exposure. Flash forward 2015, I'm the MySpace Artist of the Month, and no one gave a flying fuck.
Yeah.
But it was cool. It was funny. I laughed. I got the PR agent. He was like, "Hey, you guys are gonna be the MySpace Artist of the Month." I'm like, "What the fuck year is this?" But I'll take it. It's funny.
Yeah, that's kind of one of those ones where
cracks me up.
I mean, you're just grateful, right? You just say, "That's cool." MySpace, 2015.
I'll do an interview with MySpace. Sure. What do they want to talk about?
Was it Tom?
I don't remember who the. Oh, yeah. It was definitely. He's doing all the articles now.
Yeah. There's been some layoffs.
Yeah. That guy got out at the right time though. He like sold it. Yeah, he sold at the peak and was like, "Out. See you guys later."
Right.
Enjoy this social media shit. I'm done. Craziness, man. Yeah, let's get into it, dude. So you guys released an EP in 2021. Did you guys record this during the pandemic or is it even before the pandemic?
Before, yeah. 3, we recorded it like literally, I think I remember being in the studio being like, are we going to be like allowed to do this even next week?
Right.
Like it was right on the cusp of like the orders came out.
Oh, wow.
And so we went into a province-wide lockdown initially. And I think it was 2 weeks after we finished that happened. Like we were talking about COVID when we were recording it, but it was still kind of like, oh yeah, we had a show coming up like in, and we were like, I don't think we're going to cancel it. I think like we're just going to kind of play it by ear. No one else has canceled yet. And then, you know what I mean? But yeah, 3, we recorded that pretty quickly last year and it was supposed to originally come out, in I think August or September of 2020 because we were going to do a lot of touring. We had taken 2019 mostly off. We'd only done 3 weeks in 2019 because we needed some time to kind of, 2019. Somewhere around there. We decided to take a year almost to kind of recoup because we'd been doing 100 shows a year since we started.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And the idea being in 2020, we go like right back to trying to hit that 100 show mark. So kind of ironic sitting here now in my basement being like, I really, that time off.
Yeah, really. Wait, so how long did you guys spend in the studio? You said 3 weeks?
No, I think 3 days.
Oh,
it was
oh wow.
This was really fast for this EP because
Even faster than anything you've done before?
I don't know. We always do things fairly quickly. I can't remember. The other ones are so far removed at this point from my memory in terms of how long we were there. I remember making them obviously, but yeah, we do most of pre-production at home.
Okay.
Like, we do lots of work at the jam space, and
Right.
like to some degree there's some amateur recording engineer vibes.
Right,
Maybe,
totally.
maybe you can record like some of the synths. I recorded all the vocals myself.
Oh, okay.
So save some energy and stuff like that way. But in terms of being like in a studio recording, I think it was only 3 days right before the pandemic hit. But yeah, we're always kind of working on stuff outside of the scenario.
So you guys had okay, let me figure this out. So you guys would do like vocals and synths at your own time, and then that was kind of like the basic layout of the song. And then what, you guys go into a studio and just do drums, bass, some guitars, or?
Yeah, we typically do drums in a studio because
it's so hard.
There's no level of competency on my, like, I can't even approach that level of confidence on a recording front. And I don't think I ever will. Like there's some weirder stuff that we've been trying lately, but that would be for like really affected, like auxiliary sort of drum sounding things with a full kit. But yeah, always doing drums in a studio. I don't know how to do them on my own unless we're trying to do some like super dry, tiny sounding kind of like, we would maybe venture into it at this point. It's hard to say because like we're definitely on a growth path on that front, because when we first started the band, none of us could record at all.
Right.
And then kind of the narrative around recording.
Kind of out of necessity, would you say?
Yeah. And like, cause the ambition with a lot of stuff gets bigger and bigger, and like the resources to be in a studio aren't there. So, just finding that workaround and recording technology where it's at right now. Like one of the big things that I feel is so important to demystify is like, if you are kind of like entertaining trying to record at home right now, but you're kind of intimidated, like you can do it.
Yeah.
Like if I can do it, you can do it.
Yeah.
Like, and there's so many like YouTube videos at this point where it's just like, any hurdle you hit, I was able to just like type the exact problem into Google and have it in 10 minutes. And it's all pretty self-explanatory once it gets going. Because I know that in our band, we had a large fear of it. We were like, we can't do this. Yeah. Like we'd watch other people record our stuff and be like, this is like beyond my capability as an artist.
Right.
And that's just a self-confidence thing. I think if you just like go and pick up a shitty interface and a shitty microphone, like
you can make
just start doing some stuff. Yeah. The act of getting a piece of audio into your computer for the first time and listening back, I think that breaks most of the barriers. Because like once you're sitting there listening back to something you've recorded, I feel like that barrier is broken mentally to some degree, and some of that fear can start to dissipate. But yeah, in terms of us as a band, it is a bit at home, at studio. There's an amalgamation of how it's working. So it'd be unfair of me to say, we did it in 3 days.
Yeah.
We're superhumans.
We're superhumans.
You know what I mean?
Okay. So there was some okay. Yeah,
that's
awesome.
not the vibe I want to give off. When I say we did it in 3 days, it's like there's months of practice before that too. And like we're really, I mean, by virtue of like, unless we're putting on a show in Abbotsford, no bands are stopping in Abbotsford necessarily. So by virtue of kind of, and it's also, everything closes here by like 8 o'clock. So we practice a lot. That's kind of like, and we enjoy playing, like we're players, right?
Is it one of those things where is it one of those towns where your neighbors are really far from you? Can you make loud noise at your house?
Yeah, not me.
Okay.
But where we jam, we jam in like a shitty old. It's not even shitty. Why would I say that?
It's
It's
just
good.
easy. It's
Good.
easy to call it shitty. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a shop
Right.
on a farm. So
Oh,
like,
okay. Are there
yeah,
other bands there, or how'd you get hooked up there?
no. Uh, Ruben's parents, the other guitar player, were dairy farmers for a long time, which
Cool.
is really ironic because everyone in the band is vegan or vet.
Yeah.
And so like the fact that we practice on this old dairy farm,
That's hilarious, man.
kind of funny.
Yeah,
But
that's hilarious.
there just happened to be a shop on this like property a little outside of town that had electricity. So
Cool. Yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah, we have like one rehearsal space in Santa Barbara, and it's not like hourly. It's all lockout, and if you're not in, you're just not in. It's just like,
right.
so
Yeah.
we're always trying to find weird places to practice. Like it's so hard.
I feel like that's such a hard part of navigating being in a band that we don't take for granted at all.
Right.
The fact that we have a place to practice. Most
Yeah.
people, even when that wasn't an option, because it wasn't always, like most people in town that were connected with our artists themselves and are willing to let you practice in their basements. And if you're doing it, you have to be selective with the hours, of course.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know.
That's
It's
awesome.
yeah.
Uh, damn. Okay, so I was gonna bring this back to touring. You said 100 shows a year. Does that also connect with how efficient you guys are in the studio?
Oh,
Do you think
I
it's
guess ostensibly it
connected?
has
Yeah.
to. I think it'd be like, if I sat here and tried to tell you no, I wouldn't be able to come up with a good reason. Yeah,
But like it's
just
built
about
this connectness. It's built this tightness with you in the band that you guys know each other's moves. We know what we want to
yeah.
do.
I think the thing above touring is just communication and respect and vulnerability of the other people in the band.
Yeah.
Like touring definitely helps because you're playing together a lot and you learn each other's playing intricacies and you learn your strengths and weaknesses. But that only goes so far if you're not willing to also explore them as like people, like just
Right.
sitting at a table having dinner with one another. So like that, I hear this kind of, one of the things that I kind of have trouble navigating is that idea of like, oh, you guys, like, you're so locked in, like it's like telekinetic, you just understand each other. And I'm just like, it's not magic. It's just literally that we sit down and talk to each other at dinner, and we make a point of hearing each other and saying what we really feel and being vulnerable with one another. And so I think on kind of like a level of, I would view our relationship as a marriage of sorts because we've been doing it for a very long time, and you have to have trust and communication to be going around with people for 2 to 3 months at a time.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of it more comes down to just hearing each other, listening to each other, and speaking and communicating clearly and trying to make sure you understand the other people. I think that goes a lot farther than touring does. But yes, touring helps because that facilitates the moments that I'm talking about. Right.
It's that tour etiquette, how to treat each other off the stage as well as on the stage.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we definitely. I think the band would break up if we didn't.
Right.
Because you can't be out for, our longest one we did was 3 months straight.
That's crazy.
And you can't be out for 3 months straight trying to live frugally, sleeping on people's floors. Like, we work these trades jobs to save up and then quit to go on tour.
Right.
And so there's so much volatility and things are changing every day. And you have to leave room for people's like emotions, because if you try and challenge that and if you try and mediate it in a way that doesn't feel like a person's being heard, that's just kind of a recipe for disaster in the end, because people need to feel like heard and respected and like you actually genuinely care for the experience they're going through when you're like in 113-degree weather in El Paso, Texas, sleeping on a hardwood floor.
Right.
Because if somebody says I'm having a bad day in that experience and you say, come on, suck it up. Like,
yeah,
how is that person going to feel? Like, well, then why the hell am I here with you if you just think I need to suck it up? Like, yeah, communication in bands is probably one of the biggest like things to like kind of, and I'm not ascribing this to anyone's experience that I've seen, just bands that I've been in. Like, communication is like, I think, the biggest piece of that puzzle for longevity and trying to make it work.
Yeah, it's like any relationship. It's like a marriage or anything.
Yeah. Yeah. And having healthy dynamics within that is difficult and requires patience.
Yeah, and finding out everyone's personalities. Maybe, you know, this person's just a little more like, you know, like a great example is like me. I don't really like confrontation. It's like the last thing I want to do. But my bass player, he's cool with it. Like, he's like, let's go have a talk with that guy. I'm like, if you go with me, I'll do it. But like, so it's just like finding out everybody's how everyone operates, everyone's lane, and like figuring out, okay, this is good, and how to talk to people. And that's why I think it's bullshit. I'll go off on a little tangent right here. When I go to job interviews and I explain to them the kind of thing that I do in my band, and that's why I think I should be the manager at this place, they're like, well, that's not for real. I was like, how is that not for real? I'm managing 5 different people's schedules. I'm managing their emotions. I'm directing them. I'm leading them as the band leader, quote unquote. Like, when there's an answer, when there's a question, I have to have an answer. Like, what time are we supposed to be at the venue? We're supposed to be there at 6 o'clock. Load-in's at 5, blah, 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 blah. It's like, these are leadership skills that I don't think are valued much outside of being in a rock band, which is unfortunate because it's all the experience I have.
Well, I mean, I think universally, most workplace culture has a lot of toxic aspects to it.
Totally.
Especially as somebody who's worked in trades for a long time. Like, what's idealized, what's romanticized, and what's viewed as successful communication is far different from what actually breeds camaraderie. I've never really had a job, and that's not true, actually. I've been fortunate on one end with a company, but for the most part, I'd say almost universally, the camaraderie that people try and instill in a workplace, which is like, we suffer together and like, we like work 14-hour days together, and we don't have personal lives together. It's just like, it shows a deep disrespect, I think, for the community and the self, because the idea that your worth as a human is just tied intrinsically to your output and labor produces such a fucked up internal dialogue, and it affects people in a really big way to be like, I pride myself on a 14-hour work day, and I don't talk to my you know what I mean? And
it's like, no, I see. Yes, I talk to those people all the time, and I see them on Twitter all the time. Like, I know those people. Yeah. It's
difficult. And this kind of, to tie it back into what we were talking about, though, it's just that playing live. I think it has more to do with communication and trying to respect one another. And touring is the vessel for those communications a lot of the time. But
what's your role on tour? Are you driving? Are you passenger side? Are you taking the nap in the back seat?
This is usually met with astonishment.
Okay.
I am, by choice, this isn't something I feel is bad, but I drive 100% of the time.
Nice.
And that has much more to do with my anxiety than anything else. And everyone else in the band respects that. And like, I'm not falling asleep at the wheel or anything.
Totally.
But I drive 100% of the time. I do all the driving.
Do you like to control the music, or you just let the passenger do it? You just do it and I'll just drive.
We actually don't listen to music together. We all put in our headphones.
Really?
Like, if you were to tour with Blast.
Yeah. Let's get into it.
Like in our van, I think you would be really fucking bored. Because like, we all know each other pretty intimately. We all have pretty different tastes. And so if you got in the van with us, we mostly put in headphones and listen to podcasts.
Oh, that's awesome. I do the same thing.
And like, once in a while, I mean, it's not like this, it's not universal. We do listen to music together once in a while, but again, this is kind of just a facet of the length of the tours. I think if we were sitting there trying to have united front all the time about like this one next, it would just be like so miserable. And especially the like eclectic nature of our band. Like we don't like, there's crossover in a lot of places, but there also isn't.
Right.
So I don't know.
That was half the motivation for me to even start this podcast, is that on tour, I love like me and my guitar player Jacob, and anyone who sits, because I like driving too. Like I will try and drive because I get car sick, and it's the best thing for me. Car sick or passenger seat. That's why I don't get like, oh, I'm gonna fucking barf. But like the conversations that I have just like staring at a road, not thinking of anything, are so free, and we talk about anything and we talk about everything. And that's like kind of, I was like, damn, start a podcast, man. But then like part of your mind's like, I shouldn't start a podcast. I don't know. I feel like that takes so much time. But then once you do, you're like, it doesn't take that much time. Like the conversation's about an hour, and then you edit it and then you put it up. Like it doesn't really take that much time, but like, yeah.
Right. I mean, podcasts are the big one. They're such a good time killer. I specifically, like, my memory currently jumps to driving from Austin to El Paso and that kind of stretch.
That's a big drive, man.
So fucking boring.
Fuck.
Need those podcasts. need to not have somebody like pressuring, like listening to like US Maple for 2 hours or something.
Right. Yeah.
So.
and it's like, you know, I get it. Like it's so hard to like all be on the same page listening to, like, yeah, we should all listen to Leonard Skinner right now together. Like, it's like everyone puts on their own. I've seen that. I think I definitely have seen that. Or it's always someone taking a nap in the back seat, or they have their headphones on. Someone's playing a Switch, like, you know, doing something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Switch was a big one for one of our.
Yeah.
That was a big one. I think actually two of them on the last tour, maybe even. I can't remember. I think our bass player and our other guitar player, I have this, maybe it's a fantasy and I just am romanticizing it.
Yeah.
But I seem to remember them like playing Mario Kart against each other.
Yes.
So, but I can't remember if I'm correct or not, to be honest.
It's fun, man. Like you're just sitting backstage and you're like, whoa, there's a TV in the green room. Sick. Let's plug it up. And then you're like playing and it's like, this is awesome. Or if you're like at a, you know, on those nights where we feel lucky enough, like, oh, whoa, actually the hotels are actually only like $50. We could do that. Oh, let's just get a hotel. Yeah, it's like, oh, sick. That's not bad. Like
the $50 motel is like
the Red Roof Inn, you know,
it's one of the saving graces of touring the United States. Cause like some of those motels, like we have a habit sometimes of like, I specifically think of the fact that we've actually never stayed in Atlanta, Georgia. We always drive like an hour and then stay at a Motel 6. And same with, and to be clear, that's not for any reason. We just don't really know anyone down there.
Yeah.
And after the show, we ask on stage to be like, can anyone put us up? But it's a lot to put up 5 people, right?
Yeah. It's hard. Yeah.
So like, I don't hold that against anyone, but you know, the saving grace is some of those Motel 6s that are like an hour to 2 hours outside of the majors are like, we've paid as low as $29.99.
Oh yeah.
Like
those things are cool.
This is, and like, whatever, we sleep on the floor anyways.
Yeah.
So it's really no like hassle for me to sleep in those places. I know some people might hear $29.99, but I think that's terrible. If you hear $29.99 motel room and think that's disgusting, because you know it's a place that people need.
Yeah, you sleep there and you fucking get your shower, get up early and get going. Like that's what it's about.
Has running water, yeah. You get too. Like I don't get to shower most mornings if we're staying with someone who has to work at 8, and they're like, "Get the hell out!" And you're like, "Okay."
Yeah.
I think back to this one experience that is so funny because. And if by some chance the person who I'm talking about listens, I hold no animosity towards you. Yeah. I understand that you were trying to do the best, but I go back to this memory, like when I think of that, which is we were on tour with a band from Winnipeg, Manitoba called Tunic. And there's 3 of them and there was 5 of us. And this person, after the show, we were playing in Des Moines at this really
Iowa,
nice Yeah, this really nice venue called Vaudeville Muse.
Cool.
But anyways, this person, he's like, you can all stay at my house, but I just want to warn you, I have work in the morning. And we were like, that's okay. What time? And he was like, pretty early. And I was like, okay, that's fine. Like, could you give us like an estimate of what time? He's like, well, you know, pretty early. I got to get out pretty early. And we were like, okay. And I didn't like, you know, this isn't not a conspicuous person that I mean, like, why wouldn't he tell us? I'm just like, okay, so he's got to get up at like 7 a.m.
Yeah, 7. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
So we both, and he's willing to put up 8 people. Like, we're not about to be combative in any capacity. So we go to his house and we go through the hassle of unloading all our personal stuff. 8 people bringing their backpack, and I have like, you know, most of us have a little traveling bag with some clothes and stuff like that. So like, you know, 8 people, 16 bags, sleeping mats, start setting up downstairs. A couple of the people who drink or smoke go on the patio and talk with the owner. And the owner casually slips that he's leaving at 5 in the morning.
Oh.
And it's 1.
Oh.
And it was really funny because on that tour, only 3 of the 8 people drank. So like some of them were drinking on the patio with this owner who also like has to get up at.
Yeah, I'm more worried about him at this point.
I'm like, what's going on? And but it was really funny because we like apologized to him. Like we all went outside and we were like, we're not staying here. And some people fought it because they were like, well, he's like, you know, he's giving us a place to sleep. He's giving us beer. And you're like, yeah, but I don't want to get up in 4 hours and have to like sleep in the van. Oh, because that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And so we apologized to this person and we were just like 8 of us in his living room. By now it's like 1:30. And we were like, I really appreciate it, but there's just no way in hell that I'm only going to sleep for 3.5 hours on your hardwood floor when I could drive like an hour outside of the city, spend $30 and sleep till 11 a.m.
Right.
Some hotel. But it's just what, and again,
so
no animosity towards him. He was trying.
So is that what you guys did? You guys just drove outside the city?
Yeah. It was just so funny to like the amount of effort that had gone in already. If we had just heard 5 a.m. at the venue, so I guess in a way I can't escape that I'm admonishing him a little bit, but if we'd heard 5 a.m. at the venue, we could have avoided a lot of that.
Potentially could have been like, okay, maybe a decision could have been made quicker.
Yeah. Because it was definitely 11:30 p.m. like when we were loading out. Anyways.
There's definitely a weird feeling when you get to the Motel 6 and like you're just like, hide the van. Because, you know, I'm not going to tell them and I have like 5 people like with me. Like, I'm just like.
I suppose it's worth establishing that, yeah, when we pay $29.99 for a hotel room, I'm the only person going in and telling them my name is Bingo.
That is a part of touring life, the tour life that is not discussed. The deception of going into that Motel 6 and then hiding the van so they don't fucking see it. Just drop me off and I walk in, and then everyone slowly packs in.
You wonder like how investigative they are with their like water usage stats.
Oh,
because like that night we literally did just pay for one room, one person, and 8 people slept in it and showered.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, do they know that like can they just see that like this one room is like showering
using gallons and gallons?
Do they just think I'm showering for like 4 hours?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Are you the first one to wake up? Are you first in the shower? What's your vibe?
Never first. We got one member who's pretty healthy living.
Yeah.
We're all minus one person. We're all early risers, but one person is pretty exceptionally early. And then the outlier card is exceptionally late.
Yeah.
Like I'm talking if we have a day off. I think back to we played in Kalamazoo, Michigan, and we had a day off and we were staying at a friend's house. So we felt a lot of comfort, and he slept till like 2 p.m.
Yeah.
Is that you?
Nice. I'm definitely one of the first people to wake up, like, because I want to get in that shower first. I don't want to be in. It's all sticky and hot, and then you're like, all right, time for me, the fourth or fifth guy. Like, it smells like disgusting in there, and then you're just like trying to get out. Yeah, so I like to get in there first. Everyone's still asleep. I'll probably wake up an hour before everyone else. And then, like, sometimes I like this. This doesn't happen all the time. This is a big luxury, a big privilege. If the hotel has a gym, I will get a little workout in just to feel like, whew, because it's so hard to like have, for me, working out is important, obviously, for physical health, but like mental health. That really clears up shit on the road. And when you're in like week 3 of a tour and you're just like, oh, that's like kind of like one of those milestones. Like after week 2, week 3, you're like, okay, how much longer do we got? So like a good gym at a Holiday Inn or like cheap, whatever, cheaper kind of place. Like, yeah, I love those.
I've always wondered what the logistics would be of like if there's a national gym chain of some sort, because the mental health aspect of trying to stay active is really big. But we try a little bit in the mornings as a group to do it. We're also really fortunate on like when you bring up the shower front, we're like, we've had discussions about being like, when you're done showering, if you like, have a lot of body hair. It is what it is.
It is what it is.
Just cleaning up, like when you're done, like if you like, so that it actually is nice for the next person. That's like a compassion that I think we afford ourselves, like towards one another on tour.
Absolutely.
It's just like really, I think one of the other reasons we can tour for so long, and it ties back to what we were talking about earlier, is sort of this facet of like, you're looking out for yourself, but you're also trying to be compassionate to like the others around. Do you have anything else that was pressing that you want? Because I talk a lot.
No, so. I love it, man. Have you thought about starting your own podcast?
No.
Because you're very good at this. Okay.
I don't feel, to be honest, I don't feel comfortable talking a lot of the time. I did a lot of, I did a talk house recently, my friend Rick, and I found that to be quite distressing. I actually have a lot of discomfort around scenarios like this, and I enjoy it, and I enjoy connection.
Totally.
People. It's more the act of like the recording or the publishing that is like stressful to me. So yeah, I mean, I kind of talked about it a tiny bit in this press cycle, but I don't think I've ever vocalized before how deep it is, which is like, I have like immense anxiety problems. Like I take medication for it. Okay. And I'm like really like sometimes on tour, I find it like I definitely have moments where I'm like, I want to go home right now.
Right.
Like in the middle of like, and like, you're driving through New Mexico in a desert, and then out of nowhere, like you kind of just get that overwhelming body chill and go like, I hate it. I'm like, I need to be in my house with my cat and my partner, like watching a movie and not in New Mexico on a highway looking at a dead armadillo.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Well, this right here, this is important. So how do we get past that barrier? What do you do? What helps you?
Right. Well, the number one thing that helps me probably is acceptance. I've definitely developed a narrative personally that is non-combative towards myself. So my mom actually suffers with the exact same. Like you'd almost laugh at how similar our like panic reactions and stuff like that are. Like it's like definitely makes a weird case for nature versus nurture on that front, because I'm actually adopted, so I didn't even know that she had this until I started having a more like foundational relationship with her in my late teens and early 20s. So independently of one another, we both I developed the same thing. But one of our big differences, and the hard thing about talking about this, is what works for me isn't going to work like
for everyone.
it's such a singular and contextual experience. But for me, definitely being non-combative with myself is probably the biggest thing. I definitely, when I feel, especially when it's really overwhelming, especially when I use the word pang specifically because it does hit like it just starts like a click, right? And I just don't beat myself up over it anymore. And I've had some good talks with my mom about like, my mom thinks that like you can beat anxiety. And I know some people feel that too, or that you can beat kind of these feelings you have. And like one day they'll be kind of quashed and you'll be quote unquote, able to handle it. I kind of operate under a narrative that I'll have this for the rest of my life. And I'm probably never going to defeat it. And it's probably always going to be an aspect it's probably always going to be an aspect of my life that's exacerbated by the lifestyle because it's really triggered by traveling.
Right.
I have a very difficult time traveling. That's not to say I don't love it, but it's definitely probably the biggest, like, if I have nightmares when I'm at home, it's about going back on tour. But the van aspect of it more so than like once I'm in cities, I feel, or like once I'm where I'm supposed to be, I feel okay. But going from A to B is definitely a big one. But yeah, self-acceptance, that's a big one for me. And I don't know how you can, that just took years of learning that every time I felt it and went like, stop, it didn't work.
Right.
But when it happens and I go, it's okay. And it's okay that you feel this way. And it's okay that these emotions happen and you're allowed to feel out of place and you're allowed to feel extreme. That brings a weird sense of calm for me.
Right.
Because I feel like a lot of the narrative around panic, because like the struggle I have is panic, right? It's not with feeling down necessarily. But yeah, kind of just the narrative around panic, I feel like, is people always tell you to calm down.
Yeah.
And like just breathe and like kind of this narrative of like, hey, nothing's wrong. But to you, things are wrong. Things are very wrong. And you can't tell people why. And hearing calm down when you're in crisis is not like conducive to feeling any semblance of like love or acceptance. Or so I think just telling yourself that you're allowed is a big hurdle to get over, because that's hard to be like experiencing something that kind of makes you look like an absolute maniac to other people. Because it does, like, I mean, objectively, and I've kind of done a very good job of hiding it, but my band members know.
They know when something's up.
When I feel that way, and you definitely look like a maniac. And telling yourself that it's okay to look that way is really hard. So I don't want to kind of finish my thought here and be like, so just do that.
Yeah.
Because like the reality is it's so difficult. I don't know. And like
different things work for different people. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's also not easy, and it's not something you ascribe to someone to be like, this is what you need to do. Like, totally. The world's chaotic. Right. I have no idea really if this will help if someone else is experiencing something similar. Because I still experience it. It's mitigation, not control.
Is this are these some of these are I guess I'll ask this question, are you in therapy? Is this has therapy helped?
Yeah, I did therapy in 2020, and the therapist was kind of like, this is the hard thing with therapy, right? It's expensive.
Right.
So I couldn't afford to do it for very long, and it wasn't immensely helpful, but that has a lot more to do with the therapist than it does with like
that particular individual versus the thought itself. Yeah.
And so therapy is such like a kind of weird, like privileged solution. Cause I'm like, I mean, yeah, if you can afford it,
right.
I think it's helpful if you can find the right person, but
absolutely
that doesn't get to the structural problem, which is like arguably I would continue doing it and I'd continue searching. But mental health,
If it
like,
was
and
financially
I want to
attainable.
acknowledge that like I understand in Canada we have quite a few like healthcare like privileges.
Oh, we're
Like
we're very jealous down here. We're very
yeah.
jealous.
Yeah. Mental health is not a facet of the coverage.
Is that right?
So yeah. So
Oh wow, I didn't
therapy,
know that.
anything like that. So you have to pay for that out of pocket.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's tough because the big thing with me when I talk about things like this is, and part of my nervousness around like, you know, when you're like, because this all started by saying, would you ever do a podcast yourself? And it's like, I just don't want anyone to think that I believe I have the answers.
Yeah.
Because I don't. Like,
Totally.
I kind of feel like the world is so immensely chaotic and hard to exist in, and everything works against working class, poor people
Yeah.
in a major way. And there's also so much propaganda in the world that is like built to like kind of just build bootlickers left, right, and center from the ground up. So yeah, it's I just don't have the answer.
Yeah, totally. And at the end of the day, I think it's a great way to communicate with people and have connections and talk to people. And yeah, I definitely know those podcasts you're referring to where people act like they have answers. I'm like, I don't know the answers. Like, you tell me what Canada's about. Like, I don't know anything about Canada. You tell me, and then hopefully by you telling me, somebody else hears it and it echoes, and another musician who's struggling with anxiety is like, okay, it's not just me. The dude from Blessed is also struggling, and he finds ways to cope with it and still is able to pursue his dream and create art.
And that's a big part of touring. And that's a big part of like playing cities like Red Deer, playing cities like Elyria, Ohio and that's why I have such a difficult time when people are like, why do you do that?
Yeah.
What a waste of time. What a waste of money. What a waste of energy. And I'm just like, that's where I'm from.
Totally.
And those people want culture, and those people want arts, and those people want community, and they want creativity. And that exists all over the world. And to like, I understand at a certain level, these bands kind of hit these touring logistics, like even mid-level bands where they're like, yeah, San Francisco, LA.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's you know, but when you're a DIY band, I'm kind of down with like, just play everywhere you can. And especially coming out of this pandemic, I really wonder next year if touring's back, like the loss of venues that we've had, if kind of more of that communal aspect could pop up. But I'm totally speculating on something that I have no right to speculate on, in my opinion. So
yeah, it's definitely, I don't know, I'm trying to find the right word, but I don't want to say wise, but it is like some kind of forethought to think about. Like, what's the next step? As these are the conversations I'm having with people right now. When are we gonna go back to playing? I see some bands. I saw a band announce a national tour in America. I'm like, for October. I'm like, that's optimistic. Like, that's very optimistic.
I feel like for a lot of people right now, it's about just like keeping the spirit alive.
Right.
Like I feel like some people probably need to announce it and see it, even if maybe in their heart they're like, it's not going to happen. Like, I don't know. I saw this band Squid announce a tour of the UK in November, and I was like, maybe.
Yeah. I could see myself like in October playing one show in my hometown. Maybe. Yeah. But traveling state to state, or like going, especially international, like trying to go to the UK right now, like that's super optimistic. I could see myself playing one show here, trying to get, the one venue we have left in Santa Barbara, trying to get, some money going through there and trying to help out the community a little bit. But yeah, it's crazy.
I have a similar feeling.
Right.
Yeah. We do this thing every New Year's. And we're kind of hoping that the first show we play again will be New Year's this year, because every New Year's Blessed does this, like, we call it live karaoke.
Cool.
And so we have members of the community who like have wanted to be in bands but never got a chance to, or do play in local bands but don't play a certain type of genre. And like everyone 3 months out picks a song and then we learn it. And then on New Year's, we do like a 30 song set.
That's awesome.
Depending how many people where like members of the community like sing the songs they chose with a live band. And we'll practice with them beforehand and stuff like that. And so like we didn't do it in 2019,
right?
Because it was quote unquote our year off. Obviously with no knowledge that we were about to head into
the biggest year off.
The biggest year off ever. So we're I think that's kind of our like really, I think that's our light at the end of the tunnel right now, is just being like, if we can do the New Year's thing this year, like what a sick way to come back instead of like focusing on like doing an EP release or something like that, which would be nice. Like whatever. I don't want to offend anyone who's put effort into this release by being like, fuck doing a release show. Like, obviously that would be sick. But there's something that feels really special to me about if we can make it happen with the New Year's thing, because that's so much more about other people than it is about Blessed itself. Obviously it's a facet, but it would just be great to come back on a more community oriented note and like kind of get people in a room again.
That's what I'm feeling too.
Yeah.
I think there will be like, here we go. I'm going to act like I know what I'm talking about, but I think there will be, I can't think of the word. There will be some leeway, I guess, for anyone who released an album in this time. If you go and tour in 2022, people are still going to want to hear the EP. Like, I released an album in January, and when I finally do hit the road again, I'm going to play those songs that I didn't really get a chance to. Like, and I think people will want to hear it because they just listened to it online, and now we get to see it in person. I don't think anyone will be like, oh, that's so old. That was from last year. It's like, hey, I didn't get it last year, so this is my I think you'll have the opportunity to play those songs live. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, we always play whatever we want. Luckily. Right. So I feel good on that front, and we'll get a chance to showcase some of this because we're obviously proud of it. But we're also trying to finish a record this year. Cool. If we can't remotely. So we'll see. Like, right? It's so hard to say. If the summer lightens up a bit,
I think it will.
There's a chance we could.
Yeah, I'm excited.
But I'm kind of hoping in 2022 we could put out a record and be like kind of somewhat back on track.
I could feel it, man. I'm the optimist naturally, so I feel I'm very excited. I think good things.
Sick,
I think good things are on the way. That's just me. But I've been saying that for 6 months, and everyone's just like, "You're fucking nuts, dude." I'm like, "It's gonna happen. Yeah. Things are gonna happen." Like, yeah. I don't know.
I'm definitely far from a nihilist too.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't. I feel like the way I conduct myself doesn't necessarily help embody that, but I feel hope, in spite of like I think in spite of all worldly forces telling me not to.
Yeah. I know, my girlfriend's like, I don't know why. I was like telling her, I was like, the vaccine should be ready by March or April, and she's like, it's not going to be ready. I was like, and now I'm looking at her like, hey, things are moving, get ready. So yeah. That's just how I am. Well, hell yeah, man. Let's wrap it up. I usually end this by asking what's the best way to support your band, but we already kind of talked about that stuff. But go ahead. What's the best way to support Blessed?
I mean, just listen to it, share it. If you like it and you have a friend who you think will like it, that goes really far. I think people really discount like how far it goes if you tell someone that you like about a band you like, because that's how I discover new music most of the time. I have like a little Signal group chat where we talk about new records, and like that's pretty much how like community is how I discover new music. And if you start actively participating with other people in your community, even just form like a tiny group chat on Instagram and like chat about records that are coming out that you like with everybody, not even specific to Blessed, but kind of just like celebrating in the spirit of like sharing things that you love and digest with others goes really far. And I think, make a habit of actively listening to a record once a week. I think Spotify and streaming services have kind of made like I think playlists are really sick. That's like in high school, we used to make burnt CDs for each other.
Right. Hell yeah.
Streaming coming back is, I guess, kind of cool, right?
Right.
But yeah, just like kind of that active listening and curatorial environment of music and sharing it with others. Like, you probably have friends who care what you think and would be stoked if you shared music with them. So I think, yeah, that's the best way.
Cool.
Just share it with your friends.
Is the new EP3, is it anywhere physical? Are there cassettes, vinyl? Where?
Yeah. Sorry. Right. I am like getting into this new habit, which
it's all
is
good. It's all good.
Right. You can buy the record from Flemish Eye.
Cool.
So FlemishEye.com. We have new long sleeves that are designed by Nathan Levessier, who's done all our artwork from day one. He's a designer from Montreal, who's a friend of mine from before Blessed was ever a band, but he just went on to become such an amazing and thoughtful visual artist. And I'm really proud every time we collaborate with him, and the long sleeves that he did that like are in conjunction with the record, and they're cheaper. You can do like a bundle thing through Flemish Eye where they're cheaper if you grab like a long sleeve and a vinyl through them. So I think it's FlemishEye.com, and in their shop you can grab a copy, and also on Bandcamp and everything like that. It's right. Available if you type in Blessed 3. But yeah, that's I think Flemish Eye is the best place to grab it.
Okay, cool, sweet. We'll try and send people that way, man. Dude, well, thank you so much for being on the podcast, and I personally feel blessed.
Oh, yeah, I feel really good. I enjoyed talking. I enjoy connecting, and it was a chat with you.
Cool, man. Talk to you soon.